All right, yeah. So we have been discussing about different complexities of understanding consciousness. So our main focus is to understand two problems. One is the origin of consciousness, or exactly from where does the consciousness arises for that matter, or whether asking these questions, how does this question really make sense? Whether shall we talk about the origin of something? So, and another is to understand the nature of consciousness itself. So today, in that respect, with respect to those two questions, so we will look into and try to understand the way the modern science and modern science is approaching. So one of the approaches of the modern science is to look into the matter which we could able to perceive through our senses and search for the consciousness out there. And one of the place, as we have been discussing, where people are looking for that consciousness is the brain, or is the human brain particularly. And not just the human brain, people have also done the experiments on other creatures brain. So that is the and one of the approach that people have adopted or people have been exploring is the correlation, or let's say, so thing is that first of all, at the first step, let's try to define, or let's try to understand what are the different phenomena of consciousness. Some people call the different phenomena as a states of consciousness, which means that whatever the kind of awareness that we develop. So we have been maintaining this definition of consciousness, one of the fundamental definitions of the consciousness as a self-awareness, right? Or being aware of our own existence. So that is the one aspect. I mean, that is the one of the definition. However, this is not just the one. The consciousness also kind of manifest, or let's say consciousness also displays different other kind of phenomena. For that matter, the cognizance, or being able to recognize the things, right? So whenever I see the object, I identify that object, I try to recognize that object. It is, and if you attach the self-awareness of that, it is not that I recognize that external object, I also recognize that I am recognizing that external object. So this is another. And not only that, we also develop different kind of experience. So which means that once I identify that object, or let's say once I recognize that object, so that recognition, or the cognition of that object, in fact, kind of in turns kind of triggers the different kind of experience, right? And that experience could comes in the form of happiness. The experience could come as a distress, or likeness, dislikeness, and such kind of things. So these different kind of phenomena, sometimes we call them, some people call them also as a different states of consciousness. And to make you more clear that what exactly we mean by the states of consciousness, so to understand that, we have to understand what we mean by the states first of all. So in mathematics or in computer science, we try to define a state by using in a set of parameters, right? Set of parameters, let's say I have two parameters, and those two parameters, the different value of those two parameters essentially defines what would be the states, right? If the two parameters, for example, if I let me assume that those two parameters, we can consider them as a variable 1 and the variable 2, and let's assume that those two variable can essentially takes only two the binary values, which means that variable 1 can either take value 0 or value 1. The variable 2 can also take either value 0 or value 1. And the combination or the permutation of these two parameters, the value of these two parameters, defines the different possible states. So the sometime this consciousness also behaves, the different behaviors of the consciousness also can be represented, also can be thought of as the states of the consciousness. Now the point that we have started is that those consciousness, whether they correlates, right, whether they correlates with our neural activities or not. So which means that I have a different set of phenomena, the phenomena with respect to the consciousness, and the corresponding to the corresponding correlationship with the neural activity. Now the point that we wanted to, the from here we wanted to take it to that, let's say we could able to enumerate, or we could able to enumerate all the possible states of consciousness, or all the possible phenomena of consciousness, even though they are subjective to a particular individual only. And let's say we could able to correlate all those phenomena with the neural activity. So can we say from here that the consciousness exactly has originated from the human brain, right? Or consciousness can have the independent existence. So this is the problem that we must establish, that whether the correlation really leads us to say that the consciousness is originated from the brain, or somewhere it has the somewhere that hypothesis, or that theory has the says the limitation in asserting that consciousness can originate from the from the neural activity. Rather it may hints that the consciousness can have independence existence. However, to say that the consciousness has independent existence, so that is a really very challenging problem, that the whole consciousness can have independence existence. So how do you say that consciousness can have independent existence, right? So that is the problem. So that is the problem we'll be addressing next.